Good morning, friends. Good morning. Good to see you this morning. Good to be with you this morning. Let's see. Oh, yep, there we go. Now it's working. Wonderful. It looks like we're working all over the place. Welcome to another episode of PB Reads the Bible and another week in our lives. It's Monday, August 8th, beginning of a new week, which is wonderful. And this is episode 14 on our journey through the book of 2 Samuel. Because this is PB Reads the Bible. I'm PB, pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church in Waynesboro. And every day we get together. I do some reading of the Bible. We read together sections of the Bible, and we're working our way through 2 Samuel. We are the second half of Samuel, that would be actually too. This is episode 14 on that part of our journey. And we will be looking at, we're going to do more than one chapter today. We're going to do like a chapter and a half. So that's my plan. We're going to do chapter 15 and part of chapter 16 because it's kind of hard to find a good spot to end. It really is. The end of 15 is sort of a good ending, but 16, that first half of 16 really finishes up that section of the story. So we're going to read through chapter 16, verse 14 when we get there. Because first we're going to do romper room roll call, and I see a couple people are signing in. Why do we do that? What is it? Well, it's where you check in and you tell me that you're with me today, or that you're with me some other time of the day, because I know not everybody can watch live. Not everybody can join us live, but if you can, go for it, right? Facebook tells me how many people, YouTube tells me how many people, neither one tells me who you are. So you can use the comment sections to say that. You can also do that to ask questions or state comments and things. And I see some folks are already checking in. This is great. Good morning, Cheryl. Yes, I received notification too. Woo! Nice and quick. Good sunny morning to everyone. Thanks for the cards. You are welcome, Pat. Good to have you with us, and happy anniversary to the two of you. Good morning, Marcia. Good to have you joining us as well today. Good to see everybody. This is wonderful. And I believe this week should be all good. I think I have a meeting Thursday morning. I believe I have a meeting, but again, when you run the meeting, you can usually adjust the time, make things go quicker. I'll just be prepared ahead of time so that we're ready to go, and that should be live. But even if not, if I change my mind, it'll be live for you 9 o'clock every day, Monday through Thursday this week. Oh, yeah, another week. Woof. That one went quick. Lots of stuff going on. Anyway, if you have things you want us to keep each other in prayer about, please go ahead and list those in the comments as well. And again, if you're not joining us live at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, you can still check in, you can still leave comments and questions, and you can still offer prayer requests. I know I go back in multiple times throughout the day today, and usually right before I do the next, we have our next session to make sure that I got everything. Sometimes Facebook doesn't let me know right away that that you've left me a comment, that you've said something. Sometimes I don't see them until we're done. So if I don't answer you right away, that's why. Good morning, John and Cindy. Good to have you with us. Happy anniversary, Bill and Pat, they say. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Otherwise, we're never going to get through a chapter and a half if I don't start talking. So we're going to start reading with 2 Samuel chapter 15. When last we left them, It looked like everything was going to be fine. It looked like Absalom has been allowed to return to Jerusalem. And even after being there for a couple of years, David has even allowed him to come into David's presence. We don't know for sure what all of that means, okay? It looks like things are somewhat okay, but there's some language in there that shows us that there's still a separation between the two, indicating that David can only go so far, not as father perhaps, but as king, regarding his son Absalom. So we probably should have known that not everything is well in the world. So here we go, chapter 15. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run ahead of him. Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the road into the gate. And when anyone brought a suit before the king for judgment, Absalom would call out and say, "From what city are you?" When the person said, "Your servant is of such and such a tribe in Israel," Absalom would say, "See, your claims are good and right, but there is no one deputed by the king to hear you." Absalom said, moreover, "If only I were judge in the land, then all who had a suit or cause might come to me, and I would give them justice." Whenever people came near to do obeisance to him, he would put out his hand and take hold of them and kiss them. Thus Absalom did to every Israelite who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the people of Israel. Pause. Now, there are some things there that I'm sure we pick up on. We can kind of see what's going on, but we'll go into a little bit more depth. So after Absalom has come back, and we've seen at least some part of a reconciliation and a restoration, but we're left wondering, and the opening verse kind of indicates to us that things aren't well, because it says he got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run ahead of him. It has been supposed and suggested by biblical scholars, and as well as other historians, sociologists dealing with the time period. That would be our sociologist. It's not archaeologist. Paleontologist, I believe, would be the correct term. That this indicates Absalom claiming succession to the throne. This is his stating that he is going to be the next king. Nowhere does it say that David has reinstituted him in that fashion. We are left not knowing that. In fact, probably not thinking that. Most likely, Absalom has not been put back into the line of succession, but he is claiming that for himself, having chariot and horses and 50 men, presumably soldiers, warriors, to be with him. He's creating his own entourage, and he is showing his royal inclinations, so to speak. He is showing himself to be the heir apparent, even if he has not been named as such. Then we see he has places himself every morning. It says he gets up very early every morning and places himself at the gate to the city. So he is greeting people as they're coming. I read this anyway, as he's stopping these people on their way into Jerusalem. Something he's stopping people after they've met with David and not been given what they wanted from their claims. But I see, since the author says he rose early, I think he's at the gate as people are showing up to come to the king. And he is ingratiating himself with them, with his words. He's filled with charm. We've already been told how handsome he was, right? How beautiful and luxurious hair and all that stuff. This seems to be describing the charm and the charisma that he also has, and he's using it. He's using it. And he's laying it on pretty thick. He's saying he's probably making use of disgruntled system. It's easy to suppose that the people didn't like the system of justice that David was using and how he was going about things. It's easy to suppose that, and he's offering wonderful ideas. Oh, the king should appoint someone. He should make me judge, and I would definitely have time to listen to you and all that, and I would give you the justice that you demand, right? And he's finding out where the people are from so that he can have sort of get started here and here and here with his stuff. Notice also, and again, this is my interpretation, as they come to do obeisance, which is also can be translated as worship, but we can imagine or picture them like bowing and perhaps wanting to get down on the ground, kneeling in front of him. And he puts out his hand and takes hold of them. I can read that. I think it could be read almost as him trying to stop them from worshiping and honoring him, almost like, oh, no, there's no need to do that. Come. Let's just have a hug kind of thing. And again, showing himself to be one of the people, right? Kind of thing. So we could see why folks would start to go towards him and fall in place behind him, fall in step behind him. And he stole the hearts of the people of Israel, right? So he's the common folk. At the end of 4 years, we'll pick up from there. At the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, and pause, we don't know where that 4 is. Is that like from the time that he got to Jerusalem, or is it 4 years since David has allowed him into his presence, right? So it's anything from 1 to 4 years after that. But it's after a period of time anyway. So he's had some time to work on his plan and to gain followers, so to speak, or at the very least to gain goodwill from the people. So picking up from there again, verse 7. At the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, please let me go to Hebron and pay the vow that I have made to Yahweh. For your servant made a vow while I lived at Geshur in Aram. If Yahweh will indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will worship Yahweh in Hebron. The king said to him, go in peace. So he got up and went to Hebron. Pause. I'm going to pause there in the middle, I know. Hebron. Why Hebron? Well, what do we know about Hebron? We remember that Hebron was the capital of the kingdom of Judah, of the southern kingdom. And it is where David had reigned for a time. It is also where David was anointed and crowned king of Judah and Israel. But David very quickly moved his capital from there to Jerusalem. So it's easy to suppose that the people of Hebron are a little ticked off at David, right? It's easy to suppose that, seeing that their importance has been dwindled, so to speak. They've the kingdom, the capital has been moved elsewhere, so they probably have a little bit of sour taste in their mouth for David. He wants to go to Hebron. He's very politically astute, we might say, right? He's very astute. He tells David he wants to go there. Let me go. David didn't learn his lesson, apparently, because remember the last time Absalom said, hey, let me go and throw a party, the thing that happened. Now he's saying, let me go to worship Yahweh. Now, I think, David should have said, what took you so long? You've been back for at least 4 years. It's taken you a long time to decide to finally follow through with your vow. But David says, somewhat ironically perhaps, go in peace. And there hasn't been peace in this family for some time. But so Absalom got up and went to Hebron, picking up from there, verse 10. But Absalom sent secret messengers throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then shout, Absalom has become king at Hebron. Pause. Aha! So now Absalom's plot is being made clear to the reader by the author. Now we know what's really taking place. It was just a subterfuge that he was going to go and worship God. No, he's going to go there for political purposes, and he's going to make use of their bad feelings for David, presumably bad feelings for David. 200 men from Jerusalem went with Absalom. They were invited guests, and they went in their innocence, knowing nothing of the matter. Pause. So the author is clear to state that these 200 men that have been invited along didn't know what was going to take place. They were innocent. They were innocent. However, since they're going to be in Hebron, pretty far away from Jerusalem, it's going to be hard for them to go against Absalom when the plot is fully afoot. Excuse me. When the plot is fully afoot, it's going to be hard for them to deny any knowledge, and it's going to be hard for them to get out of Dodge, so to speak, to get away from Hebron safely once he is declared king in Hebron. They were probably also carefully selected people by Absalom, ones who he believed would fall in line, maybe because he knew they were leaning towards him anyway, or maybe because he knew they had some antimony and antagony towards David about some things that were taking place, or perhaps because they were weak, and he knew he could get them to go along with what he decided. Anyway, picking up from there, while Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city Gilo. The conspiracy grew in strength, and the people with Absalom kept increasing. So we're going to pause there. So that Ahithophel, or whatever his name is, can I just call him Bob? The author is clear. He is one of David's counselors. So Absalom is taking from David's counselors. He's taking from David's entourage and his supporters. And this guy apparently was a fairly high up counselor to David, but Absalom has taken him away. He's gone with him. We can say that about him, that he was fairly high up, because of something David's going to say not too long from now. Okay. The conspiracy grew in strength, and the people with Absalom kept increasing. So he's gaining a larger and larger entourage, larger and larger army. To be quite blunt about it, he's gaining an army. He's gaining an army and all that. And that word conspiracy, the Hebrew word that's translated conspiracy, is the same one that was used much earlier when Saul was accusing his family and his servants of being in a conspiracy with David. So interesting stuff. All right, picking up from there. A messenger came to David saying, "The hearts of the Israelites have gone after Absalom." Then David said to all his officials who were with him at Jerusalem, "Get up, let us flee, or there will be no escape from us from Absalom. Hurry, or he will soon overtake us and bring disaster down upon us and attack the city with the edge of the sword." Pause. So David doesn't have a plan, but he very quickly takes charge, and the idea is to flee. Now, that might sound like David is cowardice, that he's a coward, that he's doing this merely out of cowardice and fear. But we can also see some other things in there. He finds out that his son has an army and that he's on the move. We can presume this because he says, he's on his way. He's going to overtake us if we don't go out. And notice those last words: attack the city with the edge of the sword. So rather than thinking David is a coward, let's think he doesn't want to have a fight right there in Jerusalem. Trying to protect the city, trying to protect the people of the city. This is not the land of his choosing. Okay. He doesn't want to fight where he doesn't choose the land. He wants to be in charge of choosing where that we're going to have a fight. So he's not fleeing to avoid the fight out of fear. He's fleeing so that he can put his warriors to the best effect on land of his choosing and in a way of his choosing. Okay. The king's officials said to the king, your servants are ready to do whatever our lord the king decides. So the king left, followed by all his household, except 10 concubines, whom he left behind to look after the house. That's important. The king left, followed by all the people, and they stopped at the last house. Pause. So that'd be like the last house as they're getting ready to leave the city. And all these people, it seems to be the ones who have been with David the longest, the ones that are dating back to when he was on the run from Saul way back when, and from the others that have joined up with him over the years, the rabble rousers, the low people, as well as some higher ups. But everybody is with him, and they stop at the last house. At which point we can see David as the grand commander of the army, watching his troops pass by him, so he can evaluate and see what's going on. Something we kind of saw before with the excuse me, brain cramp. David was part of them for a while, and Goliath's people would be such a... Well, anyway, it'll come to me when I don't want it, or you guys will pop it up there. But we saw that idea before of someone watching the army parade past them. So we can see David doing this, and he's preparing. Notice the names of the groups of people. All his officials passed by him, and all the Kerethites and all the Pelethites and all the 600 Gittites who had followed him from Gath passed on before the king. Pause. None of them are Israelites, except maybe his officials, right? But the names of the groups, of the military groups that are responding, that he is mentioning, the author is mentioning, are not Israelites. They're mercenaries. They're groups from other places, including the Gittites from Gath, who have followed him. So he's got an army. Picking up from there, then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, why are you also coming with us? Go back and stay with the king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile from your home. You came only yesterday, and shall I today make you wander about with us while I go wherever I can? Go back and take your kinsfolk with you, and may Hashem, or Yahweh, show steadfast love and faithfulness to you. Pause. Oh, so David sees this group, and it's the last one mentioned, so we would presume it's the last one to come by, the Gittites. He recognizes them. He knows the guy. In fact, this guy becomes very important later. But anyway, he says to him, well, there's no need for you to come along. You were the last group to join me. You are not indebted to me in any way. There's no need for you. I have no idea where we're going to go or what's going to happen next. He's pretty gracious, offering this like forgiveness of any servitude debt. Go back. Things will be better for you if you go on your own. He said, you came only yesterday, not actually, but metaphorically, he's the last one to join. Picking up from there. But Ittai answered the king, as Yahweh lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether for death or for life, there also your servant will be. Pause. Oh, so David offers this guy the opportunity to leave along with his troops, and even offers to bless him, asking for God's hesed, loyal, loving faithfulness to be with him and to follow him. But Ittai won't do that. Ittai refuses. Ittai claims, in the name of Yahweh and in your name, as surely as the both of you live, I would never do such a thing. I am with you no matter what. We might be reminded of a similar incident by David's great-grandmother, Ruth and Naomi, how Naomi wanted Ruth to return. Oh, there's no need for you to come with me back to Israel. You should go to your own people. And how she says, oh, no, never. I am with you till no matter what. Ittai seems to be doing the same thing here. I wonder if the author wanted that. Picking up from there, Abiathar came up, and Zadok also. Pause. So remember the two of them, right? So the chief prophet and the chief priest, with all the Levites carrying the Ark of the Covenant of God. They set down the Ark of God until the people had all passed out of the city. Pause. That sounds like a great thing, right? You think David would absolutely want the Ark with me, because they've used the Ark in battle previously. But David doesn't. David trusts, okay? David knows that that's not what the Ark is for, but a lot of people did. So you would think David would want it. Then the king, but picking up from there, verse 25, then the king said to Zadok, carry the Ark of God back into the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahweh, he will bring me back and let me see both it and the place where it stays. But if he says, I take no pleasure in you, here I am, let him do to me what seems good to him. The king also said to the priest Zadok, look, go back to the city in peace, you and Abiathar with your two sons, Ahimaaz your son and Jonathan, son of Abiathar. See, I will wait at the fords of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me. Pause. So David says, no, take the Ark back. He didn't want to see anything happen to it, and he knew this isn't the way to use the Ark, quote unquote, use the Ark. And he speaks beautifully about trusting in God and leaving it in God's hands. Hey, if God blesses me, and if it turns out that God's on my side, then God will bless me and I will see it again. And if God does not find favor in me, then so be it. Whatever happens, happens. Very stoic, and yet also a very faith-filled response from David. And he sends them back. But David, we also see a very cunning mind, plotting mind here. And he says to them, you go back and you can be my spies, basically is what he's telling them. You can pass information through your sons to a place where I will tell you about. Okay, so picking up from there. So Zadok and Abiathar carried the Ark of God back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. But David went up the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, with his head covered and walking barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up weeping as they went. Pause. This is not a regular appearing retreat. This is not a standard retreat. This is a penitential parade. You know what I mean? David is, it's very penitential. He's got his head covered. He's weeping and moaning the whole time, walking barefoot. So it's, it's very, he's punishing himself as he goes along, even, it would sound. And the people are doing the same thing. They're all joining together. Picking up from there, David was told that Ahithophel, Bob, was among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, oh, Yahweh, I pray you, turn the counsel of Bob into foolishness. Pause. So we're seeing like the best things of David from the past. This communication with God, immediately communication with God. Hey, God, curse that Bob and make everything, all his good advice from the past, turn it into foolishness. So it seems, although he doesn't say from the past, but it seems like David trusted Bob's counsel into pass, and he knows Absalom will as well. Will turn his wise counsel into foolishness. Okay? Picking up from there with seemingly an answer, almost seemingly an instant answer to David's prayer. When David came to the summit where God was worshipped, Hushai the Archite came to meet him with his coat torn and earth on his head. Pause. Ready to join the penitential parade. Continuing, David said to him, if you go on with me, you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I have been your father's servant in time past. So now I will be your servant. Then you will defeat for me the counsel of Bob. The priests Zadok and Abiathar from the king's house, tell it to the priests Zadok and Abiathar. Oh, so whatever you hear from the king's house, tell it to the priest Zadok from Abiathar. Their two sons are with them there, Zadok's son Ahimaaz and Abiathar's son Jonathan. And by them you shall report to me everything you hear. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city just as Absalom was entering Jerusalem. End of 15. Pause. We're not stopping though. Pause. So almost like an answer to the prayer, Hushai appears at the top of the mountain just as David gets there, and we're ready to join in with David. But David takes advantage of this opportunity. We don't really know. Hushai hasn't been mentioned in the past, but it seems that he is a close friend of David's and a strong counselor and advisor, and presumably would be known as such by Absalom. So he sends him back into the city to serve as a spy. To serve as a spy. Just tell Zadok and Abiathar everything that Bob says and everything that Absalom decides to do. And they'll pass it along to me through their sons. So he's setting up an information network. He's setting up this network of spies in his service in the middle of Absalom's territory, even in Absalom's palace, we might say, right there. He's got people. Now Hushai will actually do more than that, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like I said, 15 and 16 kind of flow together because we want to finish this part anyway of David's retreat, and he meets several different people. So far, he's met Zadok and Abiathar, right? He met the two of them along with their sons and mini entourage. Then he meets Hushai. Now he's going to meet somebody else. He's going to meet a couple more people as we go along. When David had passed a little beyond the summit, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a couple of donkeys saddled, carrying 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 of summer fruits, and 1 skin of wine. The king said to Ziba, "Why have you brought these?" Ziba answered, no, pause. Now, all of which are wonderful, right? They are fleeing. They may not have had enough time to gather all their supplies. This will be a help. This will be a big help. Ziba answered, "The donkeys are for the king's household to ride. The bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine is for those to drink who faint in the wilderness." The king said, "And where is your master's son?" Your master being being Jonathan, and the son being Mephibosheth. Ziba said to the king, "He remains in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel will give me back my grandfather's kingdom.'" Then the king said to Ziba, "All that belonged to Mephibosheth is now yours." Ziba said, "I do obeisance. Let me find favor in your sight, my lord the king." Pause. So Ziba shows up with gifts for the king, some food and a couple donkeys to bless him on his way, to support him, to show his faithfulness to the king. When the king asks about Mephibosheth, Ziba says, well, he stayed behind. He's happy that you're gone, and he thinks now he's going to have the chance to reign, that the kingdom is going to be given back to Saul's family. Okay. David responds, as understandably so, to this news and says, anything was his is now yours. As if David is still king and actually in charge. I mean, he is king, but he's not in charge right now, but trusting that he's going to be. And Mephibosheth said, or not, Ziba says, oh, thank you. Thank you, my lord the king. May I find favor in your sight. Picking up from there. When King David came to Bahurim, a man of the family of the house of Saul came out, whose name was Shemaiah, son of Gurah. He came out cursing. He threw stones at David and at all the servants of King David. Now all the people and all the warriors were on his right and on his left. Shemaiah shouted while he cursed, out, out, murderer, scoundrel. Yahweh has avenged on all of you the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. And Yahweh has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. See, disaster has overtaken you, for you are a man of blood. Pause. So it would seem Shemaiah represents, if nothing else, a segment of Saulites, of people who were still faithful to Saul, and blamed David for Saul's death, the death of his sons, who think that he plotted all that and that he grasped the kingdom through violence. The author has been very clear so far throughout 1st and 2nd Samuel that that's not how it has taken place, because he's writing an apology. You know, it's an apologetic. It's an apologetic. This whole thing is an apologetic for David, and very supportive of David's kingdom. But Shemaiah and presumably others aren't so happy. They're happy now that David is being kicked out of Jerusalem, that he has to flee, that his own son is going to take the kingdom away from you, you murderer, right? So we see all that. And in the scene is David is like surrounded by his soldiers and his whole entourage. So there's plenty, and Shemaiah is only referred to as being by himself. When Abishai, we remember him, right? When Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and take off his head. But the king said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? If he is cursing because Yahweh has said to him, curse David, who then shall say, why have you done so? David said to Abishai and to all his servants, my own son seeks my life. How much more now may this Benjaminite? Let him alone and let him curse, for Yahweh has bidden him. It may be that Yahweh will look on my distress, and Yahweh will repay me with good for this cursing of me today. So David and his men went on the road, while Shemaiah went along on the hillside opposite him and cursed as he went, throwing stones and flinging dust at him. The king and all the people who were with him arrived weary at the Jordan, and there he refreshed himself. So we're gonna get that ready. So he tells Zeruiah, or Abishai, don't kill him. Don't kill him. You overreact. And he tells everybody, he said, look, my own son, my own flesh and blood wants to kill me and wants to take over the kingdom by force. That is far more than this guy is throwing curses and stones at me. Let him. And if it's because it might be from God. God might be telling him to do this to me. And if God finds favor in me, maybe God will bless me at least as much as this guy is cursing me. So let him curse. David, the king, and all the people, they arrive at their goal, at the Jordan, which is where he told Zadok and Abiathar that he will wait at the fords of the wilderness. So it's basically the towards of the Jordan River, so right near the Jordan. He's in that valley, and refreshed himself. Well, friends, that's all we have for today. I think that was plenty too. Whew. I do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something or relearned something in what we've said and read together today, that God has spoken to you in some way as you go about your days, not just today, but every day. Keep your eyes and ears open, physical and spiritual, to everything that God, our living, loving, active Yahweh, Hashem, God, is doing in your life and the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say thank you, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed.